Savvy Central Radio, drawing out the best from our guest, with your host, Christina Nitchman.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Savvy Central Radio. This is your host, Christina Nitchman. Each week, Savvy runs weekly broadcasts providing entrepreneurs and successful individuals a platform to express their dreams, hopes, lessons learned, expertise, and wisdom with the world. Our guest today is A.Michelle Blakeley. Michelle is an author, speaker, and one of Forbes' 30 women entrepreneurs to follow on Twitter. As a micro-business therapist and simplicity expert, she has guided new and seasoned business owners on how to start, sustain, and grow their business for over 2 decades. She masterfully delivers the right information with step-by-step guidance. Today on the show, she'll share her new book, 0 to 60, How to Start a Business in 60 Days or Less. She'll show you how to get a business off the ground effectively, efficiently, and with minimal resources. Find out more about Michelle at simplicitymaster.com. Hi, Michelle. Welcome to Savvy Central Radio. How are you?
I'm fabulous. How are you?
I'm doing awesome this morning, and we were having a little mix-up before. I was telling you that I'm totally off with my time zones today. Ever since we switched our clocks back about a month ago, I'm like, But I'm so glad we could connect today. I know you have a great ton of wisdom to share with our listeners, and you have quite a journey to entrepreneurship, and you are going to share with us today a little bit about your book, 0 to 60, How to Start a Business in 60 Days or Less.
Yes.
And that could be quite helpful for quite a few of our listeners who are just getting out of the box and starting their own business. How did you come to writing this book?
Well, I've had quite the journey over the years. I won't tell you how old I am, but I've sold real estate. I've owned a nightclub, a transitional living facility. I founded a solar panel cleaning business or startup, and I established a micro business therapy practice. And most recently, my husband and I opened up a contemporary art gallery, actually in less than 90 days. And neither of us have any art experience whatsoever. We're not even artists.
Wow.
So I'm pretty good at getting businesses off the ground effectively, efficiently, and with minimal resources. And I tend to come across quite a few people who have these great ideas, or, they talk about wanting to start their own business, but they get stalled before they start. Because I know, the thought of opening a business can be so overwhelming sometimes, but, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't need to be. Starting a business is not as complicated as people may think. And, I think sometimes if you just get the wheels rolling, being an entrepreneur or a business owner, it's a continuous process. And, you're never going to know everything that you need to know. And I think sometimes people just need to get back, they need to kind of get past that. So, the book is really just a way for people to get that business idea from just being a thought in their head to actually, having the doors open in the most efficient, effective, and streamlined way possible.
And what have you found that stops most people from even getting out of the gate?
Information overload.
Very common today's
Information overload is a huge problem. And that's not just for, business owners. I mean, just people in general. There's, we're so inundated with, between commercials and, the things that we read, the news, emails, and everything's just coming at us all the time. And it's really hard, to separate what we need to use for ourselves, as individuals, as opposed to, is that relevant to, my life right now? Or do I just, slide it to the side? You know what I mean? And it's hard because, like I said, there's just too much. It's way too much. And it's paralyzing. A lot of times people that, you get, it's called, what's the word I'm looking for? You get so inundated, it's kind of freezing because you don't know what to do. It's like, well, this says I should be doing this, but then over here, they say I should be doing that. So it's, not only confusing, but it's also paralyzing. But information overload is a huge problem right now.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's just my imagination, but I think for women in particular, women business owners, they think that, well, I'm just not good enough yet. I need to learn some more skills or get some more information, because I've talked to a number of business owners who go to one class after another, one seminar after another, one workshop, and before you know it, they have like 1 billion workshops under their belt, but they don't even know where to begin after that.
Right. And they haven't done anything with the information. So you're absorbing all this information, but you're not taking any action on it.
Mm. So for you, helping business owners and being a serial entrepreneur yourself, what's your greatest passion that propels you forward in your business and in your life?
I absolutely love giving my clients an aha moment. It happens every single time. And that's always been the best part. When the lights come on, or, when they learn how to give themselves permission to engage and actively participate in their lives. I mean, that's huge for me, because I think, it's a lot easier. Life is already complicated, but it's so much easier when, like you said before, when we're able to self-validate ourselves and figure out that it doesn't need to be as complicated as it is. I mean, it's already complicated on itself, but sometimes we make it even more complicated ourselves unnecessarily. So I think giving my clients an aha moment as we're talking through their personal issues and their business issues, that's always been most enjoyable for me. And that's part of how I validate what I do, is when I'm able to give my clients that aha moment, when that light bulb comes on. It's like, oh, I get it now.
And from all of your work with small business owners or all businesses of different sizes, what would you say is like the biggest problem plaguing business owners these days?
I'd have to go back to the information overload. Yeah, I mean, people just don't know what to listen to or how to separate, what's imperative to them and what should be overlooked. And I think a part of that process, like when I'm doing micro business therapy sessions with my clients, I always try to take my clients back to their purpose, what they feel they were put on this earth to do. Because I think when you're in tune with your purpose and your principles, and you incorporate that into your active daily living, I think you find it much easier to disseminate what you should be listening to and what you shouldn't be listening to, because you're able to align that with your purpose. As the information comes across your path, you can quickly say, how does that align with my purpose, or how does that address my principles? And when it's not in alignment, you say, oh, that doesn't apply to me, right? I don't need to be paying attention to that. So I think when people start to get in tuned to their innate purpose on why they're here and why they're doing what they're doing, and should be doing what they're doing, and address their own personal principles and values, I think that helps to address some of the information overload issues.
Yeah, absolutely. And there might be things you need. Like one woman said she was getting started in business, and my friend said she came up to her and said she was so excited because she talked to someone at this marketing site that will help you get totally set up on your website and do everything for you. Oh, God, I forgot the name of the site. But anyway, it doesn't matter. And it's pretty hugely expensive for a brand spanking new business owner. I think $150 a month for the service. And the woman was like, well, I'm going to sign right up, and it's going to get me business. It's going to get me leads. It's going to get me sales. And actually, it's just a site to infiltrate or kind of help you with the marketing process. But really, it's not I think sometimes what happens with business owners, they think there's a magic pill that if I just sign up for this package, clients will just line up outside the door, and I'll have magic clients. And I think that can be a danger sometimes.
It's a very big danger. And, it's owning a business is work. I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say, it's great. You get to make your own hours, and you build it, they will come. That's not the reality. Owning a business, it's work, and it's not for everybody. So that's another thing I think people need to understand is, owning a business isn't for everyone. Sometimes, people want, they fall in love with the idea of being a business owner, not necessarily with the work that needs to take place to be a business owner. It's active participation, and then you have to make some really good decisions, sound decisions, informed decisions. And you're right. Sometimes people go into wanting to own a business, and they want kind of, the things to be done for them. They want that magic pill. They want that one-stop shop where they can just pay for something, and then the clients automatically start rolling in. But that's definitely not reality. It's faulty thinking.
Yeah. And I've been there. When I first started, I kind of thought I started a financial consulting business. Now I came out of corporate doing finance for over 20 years, had fabulous results. It was my ex-boss who actually talked me into starting a company. And so I thought, I'll just roll into my own business. It'll be a piece of cake. I started with my old corporate clients, asking them if they wanted to hire me out. And I got no results, or very little results, next to none. And my idea was, well, I'll just keep plugging away at the computer, telling people about my service. And it wasn't working until a mentor of mine said, you need to get off your butt and go out and meet people. They're not going to come knocking on your door.
And it's funny because, we're so consumed with numbers. I need to have more connections. I need more followers. I need more likes on my Facebook page. Social media isn't about the numbers. It's not about how many people are following you. It's not about how many likes you have. It's about the relationships that you build with those numbers. And just collecting numbers is not going to be enough to grow and develop your business or to cultivate your marketing, your client base. I still believe in face-to-face interaction. If you ever want to grow your business in a more efficient and faster manner, for lack of a better word, it's going to be from face. You have to get out there and talk to people. People want to see that you're real. They want to see that you're human. They want to see who you are as an individual, your personality. And a computer doesn't offer that. You can't do that, through a screen. I don't care how good your social media program is, it's just not going to happen. And you can have, 50,000 likes, you can have 50,000, connections, but how many of those people do you really know? And how many of those people know you? Have you had an opportunity to really talk to these people to see if you can even help them, and how you can help them, or vice versa? Because it's a two-way street. It's not just about you getting your product and services out there, but it's about, how other people engage with you and how you engage with them, and connect on a human level, human connection, human contact. Technology is great, and I am a tech geek. I love technology, but I'm also a huge proponent of human connection and the human condition, and people need to be connected on a more organic level. It's not through your laptop, through your phone, or through all these social media sites. It's just not it's not productive.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. It's kind of become a double-edged sword, I find, because I've talked to people online. They're just like, just text me. and I'm like, here I am doing 20 texts just to find out if we're having an interview together. I'm like,
yes.
Let's just talk on the phone.
It's almost like it's out of habit now. I think it's just it's so ingrained in us. It's just out of habit. Just send a text, send an email, when it's really probably better for you to answer the phone, to pick up the phone and say, hey, I just wanted to call you. Yeah. So one, because it's more efficiently because you can quit with the back and forth. Right. And two, it's always great to hear the voice on the other side of the line.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what's interesting, you mentioned about that real live connection. Now, a number of our businesses that listen in that are not only guests, but listeners are service-based entrepreneurs or coaches and consultants. And a number of them say they have these code words that they throw up on the social media. I'm a heart-centered entrepreneur. And, and
I love it.
I know, I love the terminology, but it's interesting. You never really see them connect live with people. And I think it's because of this highly technical age that we become, that it's almost like, well, my one friend said, I have such a great relationship with this guy I know that I wouldn't know him as well if I didn't text him all the time, because we text. Mm-hmm. But they rarely see each other. Yeah. And I have to say that I think you can get to know someone to some effect via texting or email. But I mean, because I met my now partner, we met through Match.com, and we did 4 months of letter writing through email.
I love it.
It was awesome. I mean, it was great because we would talk about things you wouldn't talk about in person during a date.
Exactly.
But the real intimacy started when we connected in person, via phone, and then, of course, physically. And that's when the real intimacy, along with the 4 months of letter writing, really kicked it up a notch.
Yeah, that's sweet. That's sweet.
Yeah. So what I say, like when you mentioned that getting together and really making that connection live, for me, I found that while a lot of the people I meet online are too far away for me to get on a plane or in a car and go meet them, the connecting with the people who are in my central area, going out there having workshops or putting on workshops or hosting things, they know people, because it's amazing how interconnected we are.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. So when you get out there and you start networking, this person knows that person. Oh, well, I talked to that person online too. Then they talk about you, and that word of mouth starts to build. And even if you're not able to connect with every person on your Facebook page, as you get out there more, you are able to make real live heart connections.
I agree. And it also builds your brand locally. Yeah. We're so focused, like I said, on the numbers and getting our brand out there, so to speak. We forget about what's immediately accessible to us. It's good for your brand locally, and it's good community will when you proactively participate in the things that are going on around you locally and within your geographical area, so to speak, as opposed to your social media area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And from your experiences being an entrepreneur and bootstrapping it all these years and building all these businesses, what is the greatest lesson you've learned so far in business that you could pass on to our listeners?
I would say not separating myself from my personal self from my professional self. I'm one person, and it was very frustrating, when I was out and about, having to decide who I was going to be presenting to various people that I met. So, I've had all these various businesses, sometimes two at a time. And, you get introduced to somebody. It's like, okay, well, who do I want to be today? Am I the business therapist? Am I the vegetarian? Am I the gallery owner? Am I the wife? And it was very tiring and frustrating because I'm like, well, I want to tell them about this, but I don't want to confuse them because I already told them I'm doing this. And that was a problem for me. I felt like I kept having to shift hats and be these different people to different people at different times. And I had an epiphany one day. I said, you know what? I am who I am, all of who I am, all these various businesses that I had, all these various side interests that I have, all these various organizations that I participate. They were all part of what makes me me. And I shouldn't have to separate that. I shouldn't have to compartmentalize each one of those things. So when I figured out that I just need to be who I am, as I am, all of who I am, personally and professionally, it was kind of life-changing in a way, because what I found was that people were naturally, or I should say I was organically attracting like-minded people. And I didn't have to separate myself professionally or personally. I was just one person. And regardless of where I was, if I just talked about what happened to be going on in my mind at that particular moment, not about all these other things that were going on in my life, it was free. I didn't have to think as hard as, in terms of, okay, well, I can't tell them about this because I already told them I was this and I don't want to confuse them. I didn't have to do any of that. I just started focusing on, what was going on with me at that particular moment, being in the moment with who I was as an individual and as a person, not trying to figure out how I was going to maneuver among all these different channels and, within my life. I just have one life. I don't have multiple lives. I'm just one person. And, when you truly are who you are, you'll find people who relate to you for that. And I call that your tribe. You naturally start attracting your tribe, people who get all of you, not just a part of you. And it's been pretty incredible. And that was probably about 6 or 7 years ago. And like I said, I think that was life-changing for me because I don't have to have these multiple personalities. I'm just me wherever I am. I take me wherever I go. I can't separate myself from myself. So I figured it's just best to be me.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that you mentioned that, Michelle, because you mentioned earlier in our conversation together, that you help people find their purpose through their purpose, get that aha moment of why they even do what they do, and to get clear on their direction. And I think that's part of it, because I think as a business owner, we think, okay, a coach doing this kind of coaching would look like this. So I have to put myself in that box.
Right.
And that's not necessarily true. I mean, you can be a coach all onto yourself and be very unique for who you are and be acceptable, because there are people who can use the way you have to give to the world your talents and gifts.
And it's very true, because when you do that, you naturally attract people who identify with that. And that's your tribe. That's where you need to be. You need to be around people who get you for who you are, not for all these different pieces of you. You don't have to hide parts and pieces of your life because you feel certain people won't understand you. Just be you, the real you, all of you at all times. And people will get that. The people that you need to have in your life, they will naturally come to you.
That is absolutely perfect. When I first started Savvy, it was funny because my original idea was to have a show that was about finances, but it was going to be structured kind of like the Susie Orman show, because she's hugely successful. So I'll copy her. And my friend immediately called me and said, no, you're no Susie Orman. And it would probably be a lot easier to get people to call you, have people call you and talk about their sex life than their money issues with someone they don't know like you.
Yeah.
So I actually decided to go with, well, it was her idea. She said, just have a business show where all business owners come on and talk about their expertise. You'll learn, they'll learn, you'll all share, and it'll be more authentically you. And she was absolutely right.
See? Do you. You have to do you. You have to embrace all of who you are at all times.
Yeah, absolutely. And for anyone out there thinking of starting a business, or they're just on the brink of it, like, I don't know how to even get started, like we talked about in the beginning, what would be your top 3 tips you could give them for getting started?
I would say first, do your homework and due diligence. Make sure you get enough information to make an informed decision on how to proceed. And I'm not talking about information overload. I'm talking about, making sure that you are not thinking about a product that's already in existence or that you can't tweak, making sure that the, what you're doing is needed. 2, to make sure that your market is big enough, because you can have a great idea or a product and the market not be big enough for you to scale or for it to be, worthy of your time and efforts. Because if there's no market, there's no money. And you need to make sure that people are not only willing to receive your product or service, but that they're willing to pay for it. Because if there's no people, there's no money. So do your due diligence, make sure your market is big enough and you have a product or service that people are willing to pay for. And 3, get a copy of my book, 0 to 60, How to Start a Business in 60 Days or Less. The book has over 10 checklists, and it really cuts to the chase on what you need to think about and do. It does require work and participation, to get your business started. But due diligence without the information overload, just be real specific, just to make sure that what you're doing is not already being done. Make sure your market is big enough and you have something that people are willing to pay for, and get a copy of 0 to 60.
Absolutely. Those are really good tips. And you said for anyone to make sure it hasn't already been done. Now, in some cases, there might be a way in which you can bring it to the market in a unique way.
Yes.
But really, as you said, do your homework. Make sure that idea of the unique way you think you have hasn't already been done. And exactly.
And it really does need to be unique.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but it's so true. There really isn't that much that's new under the sun. I mean, you really have to have something pretty incredible for it to be new. And as many crazy ideas that I come up with, time after time, I'm like, seriously? Somebody's got something similar to it, or it's in existence somewhere far, far away. But you'd be surprised. So I mean, as fabulous as you are, a lot of times the things that we think about or come up with, they're not that new. So, so you're right. But also sometimes just because it's in existence doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. So I'm not saying that just because it's out there, that means that you should just chuck your idea. Sometimes, if you're in an old, antiquated industry, maybe you can bring something to be renewed or innovative. So, keep that in mind as well, because just because it is in existence doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. Maybe you can put a twist on it or improve it to make it better than what's already out there. So keep that in mind as well.
Mm-hmm. Or at least appeal to another audience that would be just perfect for you. In fact, very early on, before I got my business started, I had written a blog called 101 Mistakes and What I Learned. And it was really taking mistakes I learned. Yeah. And people loved it around me that read it. But I thought it was so unique and it's never been done. Of course, it's been done so many times over and over again. And there was one fabulous podcast, which I can't remember the exact name of, but it was basically the whole thing was lessons learned in life. And I was like, oh, someone else has done it. It's been done quite a few times.
They're your lessons, but they're your
exactly. But here's something that I got me when you were mentioning, does the audience that you have or the thing you have, is it needed or wanted by society? Is it something that people need and want? And for a service-based entrepreneur, like say a coach, because we have a lot of those that tune in, there's a lot of them out there. How do you know, for one, if your particular brand of coaching is something people need or want? And number 2, because there's a lot of coaches out there, how do you decide the price point for that sort of thing?
Well, the price point should be the easy part because, there's already a base for you to gauge from. What do most coaches charge for? So, I mean, you can find a starting point in terms of your pricing. However, There's different types of markets. So think of like McDonald's. You've got the small, medium, and super size. So you can go with clients who need more affordable coaching. You can go with clients who are in the middle ground, or you can work with high-end clientele where you can charge premium prices. So, you have to take that into consideration as well. But when you're a coach, coaching, the coaching business is very individualized. I think that's more how we were talking about earlier. It's you making personal connections and identifying with a group of people that share your mindset and your values. So because the coaching market, I think, is pretty deep, you need to really be in tune with who you are as an individual and being able to naturally attract people who share your values, who share your ideals and your interests. Because that's going to be the first thing that people think about when they're looking for a coach is, well, how am I identifying with this particular person? So you want to be mindful of how you share your story and what your story is, because those people who can identify with your story, those are going to be your clients. You're not going to get the same clients as another coach who has a completely different story in a completely different market. So if you focus on what your story is and you set up your coaching business around what your strengths and your skill sets are, what your interests are personally and professionally, that's where your clients are going to come from, because they're identifying with you as a person first, not because you're a coach.
I like that you mentioned identifying with you as a person, because with almost anything you buy, you're not buying just the product and service information. You're buying the person behind you. You're connecting to them at a very human level.
Absolutely.
And what I like here is, because I've heard a lot of coaches and business owners who have come on the show say they've had difficult times in their practice where sometimes they're charging a pretty penny based on what they've seen other coaches do. And what I like what you're mentioning here is really get in touch with what are your strengths, your unique story, and how can you present it into the world. And don't just copy someone else and say, okay, that coach is a high-end coach. I want to be a high-end coach. So I'll just charge what they charge and model them.
It's not going to work because you're basing it on somebody else. You can use it as a baseline, so to speak, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
But you can't duplicate what somebody else is, or you can't copy their life. That's not your life. Their life is not your life. Their business is not your business. You have a same type of business, but you are not the same business. You're both coaches. That's the only thing you have in common. And I think that's a lot of times that's what people need to remember when they see other people who have successful businesses and they say, oh, I want to do that too. You can have the same business. And when I say same, I'm talking about the type of business. You can both, own insurance companies, but that, their insurance company is not going to be your insurance company. Their clients are not going to be your clients because you two are two completely different people. You don't share the same thoughts. You don't share the same life experiences. You don't, and there's so many different things that are different about you as an individual that we forget about that when we're starting a business. We want to completely, overlook that, and we focus on what everybody else is doing and what makes them successful. Their success is not going to be your success. You have to stay in tune with who you are as an individual and what your purpose is. Your circle, your sphere of influence, your friends, your relatives, your friends of friends, your old colleagues, your old coworkers, the people that you interact with at the local store, the people that you interact with, that's you. That's who those are the people that you need to connect with and stay in tune with, not somebody else's clients, not somebody else's market. Because you're not going where they go, you're not doing what they do. So I think that's where a lot of the disconnect is when people say, oh, I want to start a business, I want to do what Jane is doing over there. It looks great, she looks great, she sounds great. I want to be Jane. You can't do it. It doesn't happen.
Yeah, I totally get you. So what's on the horizon for your business in the next several months?
Oh, my goodness. I'm actually working on a series of presentations and the actual activities that will take participants from idea to open in 10 weeks. I'm doing a 10-week webinar based on the book, where I hand walk people through the process of starting a business in 60 days or less.
Wow, that sounds fabulous. And how can people find out about it and join or work with you?
They can visit my website at www.simplicitymasteredwithad.com, or they can call me. I'm more than happy to give out my phone number, which is ringing as we speak. Sorry.
Perfect
916,
timing.
I know, 916-287-1432.
Awesome. It's been fabulous connecting and meeting with you today, Michelle. Thank you so much for coming to Savvy. Before we head on out, is there any parting words you'd like to leave with our audience?
Yes, give yourself enough credit. Your little victories are just as important as the big ones. And, self-validation goes a long way. Give yourself permission to be great.
Amen. Absolutely. Everyone, please go get 0 to 60, how to start a business in 60 days or less, and go to simplicitymastered.com today and find out more about Michelle. And Michelle, thank you for coming to Savvy Central Radio.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I had a fabulous time.
Wednesday, July 15th, 2015, from 6 to 9 p.m., Savvy Central Radio hosts our 4th live interactive business networking event and interview with our guest, national seminar leader and best-selling author Paul Mlađenović. Paul shares with us his classic program, Zero Cost Marketing. Come join us for a fun-filled evening with fellow entrepreneurs over light fare and cocktails as you build valuable contents and knowledge. If you're in the New York City area, get your tickets today and come join us at bit.ly/savvymarketing.
Savvy Central Radio is home to over 100,000 listeners per month globally and runs in syndication on 8 AM and FM platforms, including iHeartRadio and 6 podcasting platforms. To find out more about our paid sponsorship opportunities or to become a guest and find out how we can help you get your message out to the world, call 718 area code 713-2289 or email at savvycentralradio@gmail.com.